And good evening, folks. It is your host, Joe Jimmy, back once again in your face with another illustrious edition of Black Chat Radio. Today is March 29th, 2012. And folks, I wanted to jump right in, didn't want to waste time, but I had to chime in on recent events. The Trayvon Martin case, of course, everybody knows about it. It's become a national movement now. Also, a little-known case that very few people know about another African-American man, black man, who was murdered in White Plains, New York. This man was 68 years of age, Mr. Kenneth Chamberlain Sr. He is a veteran of the Marines. He spent 6 years in the Marine Corps, served this country. Served this so-called country, and turned around was murdered by police forces in White Plains, New York. This happened in November of 2011 when Mr. Chamberlain was murdered. But anyway, we'll discuss that case, but I wanted to start with the Trayvon Martin case, of course. Folks, here's the thing, and I want to talk to those of us who are parents. Okay, those of us who have children, who African Americans, blacks in the United States who have children, and I want to talk to you because the truth is, what we're not doing with our children is giving them reality-based instruction. Okay, about the racial realities in this country's history, its past, its present, and its future. To make it short and sweet, and this is my own Joe Jimmy, your host, my observation is that a lot of black people, they don't even want to talk about racism, or they don't want to talk about realities for what they are. Okay, they either don't discuss racial issues or racial realities in this country, thereby leaving their children at a great disadvantage, particularly black males. Okay, and what I'm calling for and I'm hoping is that as parents, that black folk shift to a new paradigm, that they shift to a new paradigm of teaching and instructing their children in racial realities and real world experience, real world knowledge that they can use, that they know how to handle situations that they're likely to encounter in their adult life, and maybe not even adult, even as teenagers or what have you, even children. But folks, here's the thing. In talking about the United States and racism in this country and this country's societal makeup, I mean, look. And this is Joe Jimmy talking once again. I'm not skirting the truth. I'm not going to hide anything. I will tell my children exactly what it's all about. I have nephews, I have cousins, I have nieces, anyway. But what I do is let them know things for what they are. Okay. The fact is, folks, and this is just harkens back a little bit what I've discussed before, is that this country for several hundred years embraced legalized terrorism against blacks. Whites had impunity to destroy black property, murder, terrorize, maim, and kill blacks for not being white. I could pour over. That's another show, but folks, I think I need to go through the many cases where blacks, innocent black folk, were murdered by whites, and the white perpetrator or the terrorist was allowed to walk away and basically allowed to live a long life of carefree nothing. But folks, anyway, the reality is that the majority of people in the United States fear and or despise blacks. I've said that before. But Trayvon Martin, here's the thing. As a young black man, the fact is that because you are not white, number one, you are still a target for terrorism. Okay? Now, some of you, I'm sure you will say that, oh, it sounds so extreme, and oh man, how can he say anything like that? Folks, look, need I go through the many cases of police brutality or whatnot? And here's another thing. When you talk about from a historical standpoint, and you look at, when I talked about, cases where blacks were murdered and tortured or what have you, law enforcement were in fact, and I would say a good majority, or at least a good number of those cases, party to the maimings or the killings or what have you, or at the very least, they made sure that the white person guilty or white persons guilty were not held accountable in any capacity for their acts of terrorism and killings or what have you. Law enforcement was used as a tool by society at large to terrorize and control blacks, in a respect that they were to be used as cheap labor as pack mules and cattle to take advantage of and enslave. And the minute that they tried to revolt, that law enforcement were immediately called in to put down the revolt, or to defend their tyranny. This has been the role in law enforcement in the United States even prior to its official founding in 1776. You go back to the 1600s, and I'm not trying to. I don't want to make this a history lesson, but folks, do your homework, and you can go back as far back as the 1600s, when you see where law enforcement, so-called law enforcement militias, were called in to terrorize blacks and to maim and kill blacks. They would burn down black property, destroy it when they caught wind of a black person doing anything in terms of self-defense or anything. Okay, and folks, that tradition carries on today in 2012. Some of you say, well, oh man, and this is what some of people have say, oh, you need to move on and you forget about the past. Folks, I mean, if that were the case, the Trayvon Martin situation would not have happened. The situation with Mr. Kenneth Chamberlain Sr. would not have happened. These two men would be alive today. But anyway, folks, as parents, we need to change the way we raise our black children. Okay? Let us not lie to the children and say that, oh, you know what? Hey, y'all, race is no longer a factor. That everything, that people, America is a good place full of good people. That, it's all about your hard work and your perseverance, and everything will be, you'll have a good life. Folks, that's not necessarily the case for black folk. It's really not. It really, really is not. Not to say that, that you raise them with this, paranoid mentality that they have to look over their shoulders every 5 minutes. No, absolutely not. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that they need to be aware of the situation at hand, and they need to be aware of the setup, so to speak. They need to be aware of the setup. Okay. For example, Mr. Trayvon Martin. Okay. Now, and here's my take. This is Joe Jimmy's take on it. What they should have done, what this young man should have done possibly, is, let me stop on that. Let me go ahead and rephrase what I was about to say, because my first instinct is this young man should have defended himself. We now know that Mr. Zimmerman, he said that he was beat up by Trayvon Martin, that Trayvon Martin assaulted him, and he had to defend his life. And he had cuts and bruises. And this is what he told the police. We now know that while the police, as they interviewed him and talked to him, we see the video that Mr. Zimmerman had absolutely no cuts or bruises. He had no injuries whatsoever to speak of visibly. And the police, and we see the terrorism, folks. We once again see the terrorism of the police, the law enforcement lying and collaborating with the terrorists. And folks, yeah, that's what I call it, baby. Call it what it is, terrorism. Okay, black folk, and what they deal with from unfortunately, in these kind of situations, is the same thing with Jews deal with. I guess you can say not Arab people at all, but I say with the Al-Qaeda things. The same thing with Jews and Al-Qaeda. Jewish people, Al-Qaeda wanting to maim and to kill Jewish folk. And black people are in the same boat, same situation. Blacks are being, whites. Not to say. Let me dare not say that, because no, I have Caucasian friends. I have white friends who I love dearly. Some very good folks. So no, let me stop that. Let me correct that crystal clear. I would never ever say that any group of people are all bad and all evil. Absolutely not. No, but the situation is that certain groups within the Arab community want to kill and to maim Jews because they are Jewish, just because they're Jewish. And certain members within the white community want to be able to maim and to kill blacks because they are black and they are not white. Same situation, terrorism. Okay, so that being the case, I would say this, folk, especially with your children, is that, I mean, I'm to the point where perhaps do we need to have, as our children go out, maybe do we need to have an adult guardian with them to thwart situations like these? Okay, do we need, have for example, always, you can't go alone. Never walk alone. I don't know. I mean, just always have a third person with you, preferably an adult. To where it can't be the situation where it's one person, basically lying and actually murdering someone, and then the police collaborating with his murderous act, and basically no justice being served. This man is actually able to, he's right now walking around living a good life, and not even fearing arrest or anything else. But folks, I mean, in real world, Joe Jimmy speaking once again, I would have liked to have seen Mr. Trayvon Martin be able to defend himself, to meet the deadly force with deadly force. Now, some of you, I know that may raise consternation with you. Hearing that, you get, oh my goodness, is he advocating violence? No, absolutely not. No, Joe Jimmy and Black Chat Radio will never advocate violence. What Joe Jimmy is advocating is self-defense. Basically, you have this gentleman, it's been proven that he's lied about being attacked with his injuries. He had no such injuries. I saw the photos. This man had not a mark on him, and he lied. The police they collaborated with his lie, that he had cuts and bruises all over his body because of the vicious attack by Trayvon Martin, that he was just so bruised up and so bloody that, he just had to, shoot him in the back and kill the young man, because it was such a brutal attack that he was trying to protect himself from. Okay. But, folks, I mean, we need to raise our children with reality. A reality of the world we live in, and a reality of things as they are. Okay, it's unfortunate, but folks, I mean, when we keep hearing about these issues, and the news media in this country, again, the racism, the terrorism of the news media in this country, which is why I say we need more black news media outlets. The news media, in the case of Mr. Kenneth Chamberlain. This man was murdered in White Plains, New York, in November of 2011, and almost nobody knows about it. And do you not realize the newspapers in White Plains, New York, basically, well, let me first go ahead and explain. Let me go off now. Okay, I'll go ahead and switch gears into the Kenneth Chamberlain Sr. story. This man was 68 years of age. He had a heart condition and basically lived in his own apartment at a housing complex in White Plains. What happened with the gentleman? He's 68. He's a he's a veteran of the U.S. U.S. Marines, served his country. Basically, in November of 2011, this man, 68 years old, he has a heart condition, and he has a heart monitor, a alarm monitor that you press a button, it'll call basically a answering service that will alert the police or medical 911 that hey he's possibly having a episode, a heart attack or something. But anyway, Mr. Kenneth Chamberlain Sr., what happened in November of 2011 is that it was I believe 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and he was asleep, and he accidentally pressed the alarm button around his neck, the alarm deal around his neck, and that alerted the answering service to call the police. Okay, Mr. Chamberlain, they called him, and he let them know that it was a false alarm. But this is like, I think, a little while after they had already called the police. So the police were already en route. They were almost already there. Okay, the alarm answering service called White Plains Police, the police station, and let them know to cancel the call. The police basically ignored it. They said, no, we're coming anyway. The answering service told the White Plains Police Force that Mr. Chamberlain had a medical emergency and that he needed assistance. Okay, so basically that's all they did. They called him, hey, he's having a medical emergency. Could you bring over assistance? Okay, fine. So the police came in. They arrived, and what happened? And there's a video that has not been released about this case, and I don't know why. And they've also not released the names of the police officers who fired the shots, who murdered Mr. Chamberlain. But anyway, what happened? The police arrived, and Mr. Chamberlain basically was almost completely naked, with the exception of undergarments. And when the police arrived, he had got up out of his bed and informed them. He didn't open the door. He told them that he didn't need any help. He didn't need any assistance at all. And the police, for whatever reason, ignored his pleas. I don't need any help. False alarm. They kept banging on the door. Banging. Open the door, police. And Mr. Chamberlain, he kept reiterating. Okay, finally the police started trying to beat down the door. Mr. Chamberlain, this is after repeated, verbal cues. I don't need any help. It was a false alarm. The answering service has already called the police station to cancel the call. They've ignored all of that. They've ignored Mr. Chamberlain. They've ignored the answering service. Okay, the police ultimately end up taking his door off of its hinges. Okay, and as soon as they take the door down, they didn't give no verbal. Mr. Chamberlain was out of his bed. They gave no verbal commands. Actually, and one of the police, upon opening the door, yelled a racial slur, called him Nigger, one of the White Plains, New York police officers. I mean, folks, this is crazy. So anyway, they take the door off its hinges. They're yelling at him, calling him racial slurs. As soon as they get the door down, they immediately fire tasers at this man, 68 years of age. He has a heart condition. They already know this. He has a heart condition. The police know this. The answering service made that clear to the White Plains, New York police station. He has a medical heart condition, and yet they immediately fire tasers after breaking the door down. Okay, they fire the taser. They immediately take the door down. They give no verbal commands. They fire a taser. Then they fire the shotgun propelled beanbag. Then they ultimately pull out and fire, I think, 2 or 3 shots into Mr. Kenneth Chamberlain Sr., killing him. Okay, folks, this man's son, this veteran, U.S. Marines veteran, his son appeared on Democracy Now! The website is democracynow.org. Look for the show on March 29th, 2012, Kenneth Chamberlain Sr. His son appeared on Democracy Now! That's democracynow.org. His son appeared on there, and along with his lawyers, and they gave a very detailed account of what happened. But anyway, folks, this really, to me, and this is a shame about it, is that the news media in White Plains, what's been reported is that the events, what the police told the news media, which they didn't even care to investigate beyond what the police told them, or they really didn't care because there's a black person involved. They had in one of the newspapers, police shoot and kill hatchet-wielding man. Another White Plains, New York newspaper released a report saying that police shoot and kill armed man with knife. Okay, that he was crazed and despondent, that he was out of control, and yet this video shows that the man has gave them verbal commands that he didn't need assistance, he didn't need help. His niece, and also Mr. Chamberlain's niece, living in the same building, was 2 floors up. She came downstairs when the police were there. The whole commotion was going on. She told them he's fine. They ignored her. They brushed her aside. She told them he didn't need help. The man's niece, they ignored her and pushed her aside. They continued with this assault to tear the man's door down. I mean, folks, this is crazy. The police were called out there by the answering service for a medical response. There was no crime. There was no crime, anything being reported. They were called out there to assist somebody who had a medical condition. And yet their first intuition is to go in there, yelling and cursing and calling the man racial slurs. The split second they open the door, they immediately fire tasers into someone with a heart condition, which they already know. Folks, I don't care what anybody has to say about this. This is Joe Jimmy. Folks, that was an act of murder, plain and simple, by terrorists dressed in police uniform. That's what I call them, folks. Terrorists dressed in police uniform. Okay, if that makes you angry, I don't give a damn. But folks, the fact that you as a police officer, and I have family members as police officers. Okay, you called out. Okay, we have a person with a medical condition, heart condition. They need help. They've had a heart attack. They need to be taken to the hospital, and they don't have the means of getting out. Okay, and the minute I go over there. Okay, and the person, we arrive at the scene, and the person is in their house or apartment, and basically, I can hit. They give me a verbal command. A police officer says, I don't need any help. Thank you very much. Okay, I ignore that, and the person repeatedly tells me, "Hey, officer, I don't need help," but yet I ignore it. I just keep trying to beat down. I'm beating on the door. Open the door. Open the door. Open the door. And finally, I'm cursing at the person, shouting at them, calling them racial slurs. And then when me and my fellow officers, when we finally open the door, I immediately fire a taser into the person. Okay, folks, that's crazy. That makes no logical sense. Makes no logical sense. I mean, folks, this is an act of terrorism. These are killers. These are terrorists dressed up in police uniforms. I mean, you called out for somebody with a medical situation, and your response is to yell and to curse, shout racial slurs, shoot tasers, and then ultimately and finally shoot and kill him with a gun. A 68-year-old man with a heart condition. Okay, folks, this was an act of terrorism, plain and simple. And let me also point out once again that the news media in White Plains, New York, I mean, had no respect for this man's life. They totally, they sent the newspapers to put in 2 brief articles. Crazed man killed by police. Crazed man, killed by police. Another one said he had a knife. He was just a despondent man that was killed because he had a knife. Mr. Chamberlain had no such weapon at all. This man is 68 years of age. His niece repeatedly told police officers that he didn't need help. She was there watching the whole thing happen. Folks, I mean, this sounds absolutely crazy. This sounds like, I don't know, it's the same thing as Al-Qaeda trying to, they just want to kill all the Jews and bust in there and just kill them. I mean, that's all it sounds like. These terrorists that just want to kill blacks and have an excuse to do it. I mean, I just can't fathom that your first instinct is to shoot tasers and to bean bags and then finally kill somebody. Even after the person has clearly, given you over and over again, I don't need any assistance. I'm fine. I'm feeling fine. I mean, this, folks, I don't know what to say. But anyway, this is your host, Joe Jimmy, on Black Chat Radio, folks. But, we need to take a good hard look at where we are in the United States, folks. Because I've said right now, let me tell you right now, and this is I said this on a prior show, is that, folks, we are surrounded basically. I mean, we are in the same situation Israel, Jews are in. We are surrounded by people who want to maim and to kill us because we are not white. Okay? And this is not, folks, no, this is, I'm not saying one group of people, all people, or anything. I have white friends. I have white, people around. No, absolutely not. Very good people that I would defend with my life. But folks, I mean, I'm talking about just these groups, these particulars, and you combine that with the historic viewpoint that you have to take into account, folks. We really need to take a good hard look at where we are and where we're going, okay? Because law enforcement in this country, and folks, you know what sickens me even more, I have a sneaking suspicion that there are several more cases that the situation in White Plains, New York with Mr. Kenneth Chamberlain, like I said, most people don't know about. And the only reason that is now been brought about, this show Democracy Now! Decided to come out with this story. But folks, I mean, I have no doubt that there are several of these stories where blacks are being killed and shot by police, innocent victims who so-called law enforcement has taken upon themselves to have an opportunity to kill a black person, and walk away from it. But folks, like I said, this country's history is steeped in massive and bloody genocide, and I mean, crimes that's so gross that we don't need to elaborate on. That's a whole different show. But I mean, we need to look at a new paradigm and how we approach things in this country, folks. Because I mean, it's almost getting to a point where yours truly, I mean, folks, it's to the point where you really have to protect yourself at all times. I mean, you certainly don't want to be a victim of terrorism, of domestic terrorism, by a terrorist that has a chip on his shoulder or has social issues, and he doesn't like this, he can't stand that, he can't tolerate this, don't like that. Folks, look, that's all terrorism. And I think people like that need to be removed from society as quick as possible, because situations like this will happen over and over if they're allowed to roam. Okay? But anyway, folks, this is your host, Joe Jimmy. I want everybody to stay safe, keep our children safe, keep our communities safe, that we protect our communities and protect our people. And folks, now also, look, I'm not ignoring crime within our own communities, by other black folks. That'll be my next show. Our internal problems in the black community. That'll be a show I'm sure that you'll want to hear. I'm not ignoring that. But I mean, these two cases, that are out in the news, we need to be careful, folks, because it's getting to the point where, I really don't know. I mean, so-called law enforcement figures, just as it was in 1865 or 1812, some of them are practicing in the same mode here in 2012. Okay, that like I said, law enforcement is simply a tool by American society to control blacks, to maim and to terrorize blacks, so that whites can continue to exploit them and terrorize them and use them for cheap labor, or not even cheap labor, for free labor, and basically use and abuse and them at their will. But folks, that kind of tyranny, like I said, is unacceptable, and it's unacceptable to me, and it certainly ought to be unacceptable to you. However, that being the case, folks, this is your host, Joe Jimmy, on Black Chat Radio, and let us stay safe, and let us stay a wise and safe people. This is your host, Joe Jimmy, on Black Chat Radio. Today's day is March 29th, 2012. Folks, finally, one last note. We will be amping up the frequency of the shows, just that your host has been very busy as of late. But anyway, we will be changing our schedule. And I know we've said that in prior shows, but we are on the final stages of making that happen. So anyway, folks, and also don't forget, leave your comments at our website, the blogs, blackchatradio.blogspot.com. That's blackchatradio.blogspot.com. Folks, once again, we want to invite you. Feel free to voice your opinion. Let us know what you think. We want to hear from you, folks. You don't even have to register. We've made it to where you can post anonymous comments. Of course, they will be filtered. But anyway, feel free to leave your comments. You don't have to register for anything. That's blackchatradio.blogspot.com. We want to hear from you, folks. We want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on this? And also, please check out the case with Mr. Kenneth Chamberlain Sr. It's on democracynow.org. Check that out. It's a show on March 29th, 2012. But folks, let us stay safe, stay prosperous, and have a good week.